Thank you. We'll call the Budget and Public Employees meeting to order. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Alderwoman Boyd. Alderman Oldenburg.
Present.
Alderwoman Schweitzer. Alderwoman Sanier.
Present.
Alderman Aldrich.
Present.
Chair Spencer.
Present.
Alderwoman Boyd. Alderwoman Schweitzer. We have 4 present. We have a quorum.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. I'd like to first, for necessary absence, excuse the Alderwoman
From the first ward?
from the 1st
Yes.
and the Alderwoman
From
the
the
13th.
13.
We're still getting used to these new numbers. Okay, I'll take a motion to excuse.
Motion to excuse the alderwoman from the first ward and the alderwoman from the 13th ward.
Thank you. Alderwoman from the 7th. Do I have a second? Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll? Do we need a roll? Yeah, we need a roll call. Thank you, Madam Clerk.
Alderman Oldenburg.
Aye.
Alderwoman Sanier.
Aye.
Alderman Aldrich. Chair Spencer.
Aye.
Aye, I guess.
Thank you.
Okay, with that, we'll take up our only order of business of the day. That is Board Bill Number 1, the city's budget. And before us today, we are going to have the Collector of Revenue, Greg Daly, and then at 10 o'clock, we'll have the License Collector, Mavis Thompson. So, Mr. Daly, if you don't mind, joining us up here. I think we've got your documents here. And I'm just encouraging everyone to introduce themselves, speak into the microphone, and then tell us a little bit about your office, what you do, what you're over, and give us a sense of your budget.
Good morning. My name is Greg Daly. I'm the Collector of Revenue for the City of St. Louis. I appreciate the opportunity to come before this body to share with you some of the highlights of the Collector of Revenue's office. In the rear here is Mr. Mark Stoff. He is the Chief of Staff for the Collector of Revenue, so if we have some questions, if it would be okay to refer to him, Madam Chairman, I would appreciate that opportunity.
Sure, yes, of course.
Okay. So in front of you, you have some budget meeting notes and highlights, and if I'll take the direction of how you would like for me to proceed. I can certainly run through these, or if you'd like to look at them and ask something specific or whatever, I'll be more than glad to do so. The Collector of Revenue's office is responsible for collecting taxes here in the City of St. Louis. We are involved with personal property, real estate taxes, which are due on December the 31st of each year. They are located on the first floor of City Hall. In the basement of City Hall, we have the Water and Refuse Department. They are in the basement. On the 4th floor, we have the Earnings Tax Division, and they are responsible for collecting the earnings tax here in the City of St. Louis. We have approximately 90 employees. We receive no monies from the city. We are not part of the city budget. We obviously contribute back to the city as far as the taxes that we collect, and that's pretty much an overview. Be more than glad to go over again this particular handout that I handed out to everybody. I'll be more than glad to do that.
So, Mr. Collector, if you don't mind, just broadly speaking, just for educational purposes, if you could just explain how the Collector of Revenue is a county office and why it's not under the city budget as is the case in many cities or other cities.
Yeah, the Collector of Revenue is a county office, of which I think there are six or seven county offices here in the city. And by state statute, that is, the Collector of Revenue is not part of the city budget. We are just the ones that collect the different taxes: personal property, real estate, earnings tax, water, and trash. And if I could, it's a fee-based county office. We're responsible for collecting taxes, personal property, real estate, earnings, payroll taxes, water, and trash. Collections made by the Collector of Revenue are distributed throughout the city to support various public services, facilities, agencies, and funds. The earnings tax is the largest funding source for the general revenue, comprising of over a third of the total dollars. As prescribed by law, the fiscal year for the Collector of Revenue is the first Monday in March. During the fiscal year 2023, total collections were about $835 million. Real estate and personal property, $472 million. Earnings and payroll expenses, $283 million. Water, $51 million. Trash, $15 million. And the DOR was $12 million. City disbursements breakdown, real estate, personal property, $465 million, which those disbursements go to public schools, Zoo Museum, MSD, sheltered workshops, and 12 others, 14 total. The earnings and payroll expense, $272 million, which goes directly into general revenue. Water, $49 million to the water division. Trash, $15 million, refuse division.
Okay, just really quickly, so I know you get no city, but you get no income from the city, but you're funded out of the taxes that you're collecting, is that correct? Or how is the
4%.
office? So what is the total budget of the Collector of Revenue's office with the 90 employees?
Total budget for the Collector of Revenue?
Yes. About 15 million. 15 million, okay. Do you have a budget for the office that?
We do.
That looks similar to the budget for the city?
We do have a budget.
Would you mind sharing that with the committee?
I don't have that with me.
Okay. Would you mind sharing it with the committee?
No.
No, you don't mind, or no, you would share the budget? Sorry, Mr. Collector, I'm not understanding what you're saying.
No, I don't mind sharing it.
We would appreciate it. I think it would just be helpful. Okay, so then the cost of the office itself comes out of the taxes collected on behalf of the city?
That is correct.
Okay. I'd like to turn it over to the committee for questions. I'll go in order of seniority. Alderman Oldenburg.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Greg, thanks for being here this morning. Despite that you're a county office and a creature of state law, there's obviously an intersection between the city's finances and all that you do. And I want to just publicly state that I always think your office is one of the most professional at City Hall. You run like a Swiss clock, and it's not an easy task to stay organized and track and collect all the taxes and various revenues that your office does. So I want to thank you for your public service, and I appreciate you coming before us today.
Thank you, Alderman. I think that we have a very good staff that understands customer service, which is our #1 priority. The taxpayer of the city of St. Louis, that is the individual who pays the taxes. And for us, it is something that we understand that without that individual, our city doesn't move. So we work very hard at the concept of customer service.
I appreciate that, and that is absolutely noted. It's from residents and constituents of the Second Ward for sure. Also, I think it's noteworthy that you're in the community yourself. You're not, twirling your mustache up in a tower collecting revenue and counting money. You are a stalwart individual in the community with various charities. You go to every community and neighborhood meeting that I attend, so I know you're attending more than just the ones I am at, so I want to thank you for that too, Greg.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
That's all I have. Thanks.
Alderwoman Saunier.
No questions at this time. Just thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Alderman Aldridge.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Usually I echo the Alderwoman from the 7th, but I'll echo the Alderman from the 3rd Ward. Thank you for, all in favor, aye. Thank you for the way that you run a very tight ship. Before becoming Alderman, being on the state level, I know how fiercely you always fight for the earnings tax, which I know that is in limbo when folks in Jeff City try to take that away from us. You're not just on the front lines here in St. Louis, you take the fight up to the Capitol. And even when I worked in several departments here at City Hall, I was just able to see how amazing the staff was, how kind and professional they were, and I know that as a top-down thing, even though I know you empower your workers, which makes it bottom-up also. I do want to ask, even though like I have to jet out in 3 minutes, could you just talk about recently the closing of the DMV office, like the impact, if that has on the budget, if that generated money, was it losing more money on the long haul, and talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, the collector of revenue has been a fee agent to the state of Missouri for as long as I've been the collector of revenue. So it's been under my jurisdiction as the administration for 18 years, but it was before me. Ron Leggett, who was the previous collector of revenue, was also a fee agent for the state of Missouri. So under my administration, we've had it for 18 years. And it came up for bid every 4 years. And so it was about 8 years ago that we came up for bid, and I think you were a state rep at that particular time, where the state of Missouri had taken it upon themselves to give it to another individual. And so with the help of our state representatives and state senators, we were able to garner it back to our under our responsibility. So what we've done is we continued for 8 more years, and this last time the state had contacted us in October to say that they were just going to extend the contract. And so we took a 6-month extension on it. And I think, you know, the basis of the whole decision not to renew the contract had a whole lot to do with the fact that we were having a difficult time hiring people in our office. And we were in a position at that particular time with the state of Missouri taking a lot of initiatives to have people doing things online. Revenue was down, and the fact that we were having a difficult time having people apply for different jobs in the office, what we did is we took the opportunity not to extend the contract, and then we moved all of our folks that were in the DOR into various positions into the collector's office. So no jobs were lost. It was just it was a decision, an administrative decision that we felt would best serve the taxpayer of the city.
Gotcha. And lastly, I also want to commend your office for moving it to the 21st century. A lot of times as a new alderman, what I've found is city government is very antiquated, and people want to come down and get their business done. I know you moved a lot of those ways people can get their business done online, which I think has speared other offices to look at ways to make it more accessible for the taxpayers. So thank you for that, and thank you for being here.
Yeah, it's been very helpful to, you know, at the end of the day, the collector of revenue is in everybody's pocket. You know, we're sending out more mailings about here you owe us this and we owe you that and the whole bit. So it's imperative that our office work extremely hard at making the opportunity to pay your taxes, to operate with the collector of revenue as easy as possible.
Well, I think that does it for the alderman from the 14th. Mr. Collector, I have a couple of just follow-up questions here. With regards to your budget, one thing that would be really helpful would be kind of the breakout, especially of the cost of collecting for water and trash. We are considering right now a water hike, a much-needed increase in the cost of providing water to the city. I think it'd be helpful to understand what it is we're kind of supplementing the Collector of Revenue's office for collecting those bills for people, just as a figure for, you know, kind of doing water business. The same would be true of our trash. You know, we are considering a contract for trash disposal, significantly higher than what we're able to collect. And I don't think we're doing due diligence or due understanding of what it costs to provide those services without including the cost of collecting those fees from people. If you could also help the committee understand the percentage that goes into the administrative cost of collecting our taxes, is that, like I think you mentioned that $10 million or something like that is what your budget is for the office. How is that determined as a percentage of the overall taxes and other fees collected?
Okay, if I could, I'd like to bring Mark Stoff up, our Chief of Staff. He'd be more than able to explain that.
Mark?
Yep.
Welcome.
Mark Stoff, Chief of Staff, Collector Revenues Office.
Thank you, Mark. How long have you been with the Collector of Revenues Office?
I've been with the Collector Revenues Office for 18 years. I've been the Chief of Staff for 4 very happy months.
Okay, excellent. Well, welcome. Thank you for
Yep.
being here today.
So the bottom line is the expenses are what the expenses are. The moment we pay for everything, anything left over, those excess commissions go back to the City of St. Louis. So since Mr. Daly has taken over, $158 million in excess commissions has come back to the city. This year will be no exception. There'll be an additional $10 million that will come back to the city. I believe that disbursement payment comes in the end of the month in June. So obviously we have an operating budget that runs through March 1st, first Monday in March. You guys obviously have a fiscal year and that's different from ours, so comparisons are not exactly apples and oranges. But basically, we will develop a budget based on what we believe the costs will be. We determine the actual costs at the end. We do a cost analysis of that. Usually, we are within 0.2 to 0.5% of our estimations. There are rare occurrences. For instance, the City of St. Louis operates on a mainframe. Well, it used to operate on a mainframe. Mainframe no longer supported.
One office still does.
Yeah.
And I think they're coming next.
And we're still partially on that at this time with the earnings tax. But in order to facilitate us migrating from there, one of an added expenses that hadn't occurred prior to all this is we contracted with RSI to develop the new online filing system and repository for the City of St. Louis earnings tax. We had to do the same thing with property tax. So those were added expenses that were incurred. We paid those straight out, and then what was left over, obviously, is excess commissions. When that is no longer an item that we pay for, it doesn't stay in the budget. We drop the budget back to where it should be and continue to go and offer all the excess commissions that we have. We keep no general reserve. We keep no excess funds.
Thank you for that, Mark. It's helpful. So the expenses, what you spend on things, what you pay people, off everything from your office supplies, et cetera, who okays that budget?
So we have a finance division within our office. They present that budget to Mr. Daly. Mr. Daly approves that budget. We're audited every single year by anyone you can imagine and everyone you can imagine. And just because we're masochists, we also pay to be audited to make sure that we're doing exactly what we're supposed to be doing.
Okay, but your budget is overseen by Mr. Daly alone?
Correct.
That's such an interesting set of circumstances. I appreciate the insight there. Can you tell us a little bit, I know we have a couple of lawsuits out there on the earnings tax right now. Can you tell us a little bit about the timeline? Or this committee has been charged by the president of the board to find alternative sources of income in light of that. And kind of understanding that from your perspective, do you have any information you can share with us publicly that wouldn't hurt our standing or anything of that nature?
The only thing we can tell you is that it's currently on appeal as far as it relates to the remote work earnings tax lawsuit that goes on. I believe we are at the appellate level. We are. And I think that's pretty much all we can confirm at this moment. I will tell you that we are prepared. Should we win the case, we're prepared if we lose the case to proceed, but should we lose the case, it will be a financial impact on the City of St. Louis to the tune of anywhere between $25 and $50 million.
Per year? Or is that total?
To catch up, and then we'll have to see what the impact is when we move forward with the new ruling.
Would that impact the function or the budget of your office?
We collect anywhere from 1.5% to 4% commissions, depending on what the tax is. For the earnings and payroll expense tax, we collect 2.5% commissions on the first $800,000, and then 4% on anything after that. So assuming that comes through, it certainly would have some impact on our budget.
Okay, understood. Yeah, so just kind of going through that, those figures, those are those were kind of quickly put out there. If you don't mind sharing the budget, as Mr. Daly offered earlier, just so we have an understanding of kind of how the office works.
Sure.
Yep. We go through this lengthy process, obviously, here, overseeing the city's budget, and it's just helpful to understand how the entity that collects all these taxes functions from a financial perspective.
Absolutely.
Great. Well, I appreciate you being here today. My committee has abandoned ship, so I guess that does it for the Collector of Revenue's office.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Point of personal privilege?
Sure.
As the collector of revenue and as a point of personal privilege, we have instituted a program called RETAF, which is the Real Estate Tax Assistance Fund. And together with Prosperity Connection, Legal Services of Eastern Missouri, Park Central, and the Collector of Revenue, we have come together to help individuals who actually own their homes, do not have a mortgage, but are in the rears as far as their taxes go. This institution, RETAF, has been formed and to benefit those individuals so that the Collector of Revenue, in conjunction with the Sheriff's Department, do not put these properties up for sale. Keeps people in the neighborhood, keeps them in their house, and we, at this stage of the game, has been able to help over 100 people stay in their house, stay in the neighborhood, and secure their house. So we're very proud of that, and it's working out extremely well.
Great to hear. Thank you.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Yep, thank you for being here.
You're welcome. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Okay, we are back from recess at the Budget and Public Employees Committee. And next up, we have the License Collector's Office. If you don't mind introducing yourself for the committee, and don't forget to speak into the microphone.
Good morning. My name is Lee Goodman, and I serve in the capacity as legal counsel and chief deputy for the License Collector's Office.
Thank you, Mr. Goodman. And did you have some documents you were going to share with us, or was it
The office is not prepared to submit any documents at this time. It's our understanding that we will come and address the committee related to our contribution toward the city's budget. And we're not prepared to present any documentation with respect to our office budget at this time because we've not prepared to do that.
okay. So, Mr. Goodman, if you don't mind, can you share with us what you are planning to share with us?
Well, what I'm planning to share, and actually is based upon what questions you have, because we're kind of in the dark as to what you guys' expectations was of us.
Our expectations were to review your budget.
Okay. So if your expectations was to review our office budget, then that's a new request from the Board of Aldermen. We've not had that request since we've been in the License Collector's Office. Our general expectations have been to come and share what funds our office has raised that will contribute to the overall city budget. As you know, the funds that we collect from persons who pay taxes go towards several different departments, and one of those is the city general budget. And so we have always been prepared to come and to share with the board our expectations of what funds we've raised year to date and what our expectations are for the funds that we're going to raise for the upcoming year.
Okay, well, Mr. Goodman, I think it would be helpful and maybe educational for the committee to understand that, that the license collector's office is a county office, and so we just heard from the collector of revenue, who is also a county office. That means, really, we're a city without a county. We're very unusual here in the city of St. Louis in that way, and state statute requires that counties have specific offices that are elected. And so we have these county offices that are kind of a holdover from state statute, I don't know, going back 100 years or something like that. In any case, the license collector's office is a fee-based office, as Mr. Goodman pointed out. It operates separately. We do not oversee their budget, but they do collect licenses for literally everything that we have licenses for. So they collect all those fees, and then we get a portion of them. And it'd be helpful to understand, Mr. Goodman, if you want to, if what you're prepared to share with us, what you plan to contribute. I think it would be helpful to understand what it is you collect license fees for. I know a lot of us represent a lot of small businesses, and your office, license collector, I don't know how to describe it. I would say the license collector office collects licenses for a great number of things. And so it'd be helpful for us, since we deal with all this, many of the small businesses in our community, to understand what we collect license fees for, the percentage of which goes to the city's general fund, and the percentage which goes to collecting those license fees.
Yes, Madam Chairman, the city has roughly 3 different categories of licenses that we collect monies for. One is what we describe as the municipal tax, which is basically taxes and business licenses for small businesses, partnerships, corporations, restaurants, parking garages, etc. All these people pay a municipal tax on for the privilege to operate as a business. And then we have the manufacturing taxes. Manufacturing taxes are based upon the assessment of the equipment that is used by manufacturers as they go about their business manufacturing. So that's an assessment based upon the equipment that they use. And thirdly, we have the hotel, motel taxes, which is the category of taxes that's collected from businesses that are operating as hotel, motels within the city. What we have to share with the board is some idea as it relates to the funds that we've collected in these various categories. And we have looked back over the past 4 years and can say that in year 2020, we see that of the funds that was contributed to the treasurer, 2020, it was roughly $33 million total from the funds that was collected for these various entities. 2021 funds collected was 24 million, rather. 2022 funds collected was roughly 25 million, and as you know, those are the years where we experienced a downward turn in our economy. So you can see the downward turn in those numbers. 2023, we expected and anticipating an increase in those funds to be somewhere around 40 million based upon where we are now, the funds that we have collected and the funds that we anticipate. As you know, yesterday was the end of our fiscal year, so we're in the process of calculating the funds that actually came in the month of May, because we don't have those actually calculated yet. But our anticipation is that the funds that we receive this year will be significantly higher than last year.
Okay, Mr. Goodman, do you have the operating budget for the license collector's office?
I don't have a copy of the operating budget. Budget is something that is usually requested when we are audited by the state, and we usually submit that document to the state when they audit us.
Okay, do you mind sharing that with the committee here?
I don't have a copy of that to share with the committee. It's something that I will communicate with the license collector and see if that's something we could provide to you subsequent to this meeting.
Well, Mr. Goodman, I would appreciate it, recognizing that all the funds that you collect in the license collector's office are taxes and tax dollars. We would hope you would be able to share your budget with the Budget and Public Employees Committee. And if you don't mind sharing those figures of the fees that you collect, I think it's really helpful to kind of understand how we tax our small businesses with license fees and how we tax those manufacturing companies on their equipment, as you pointed out.
Well, so there's a basic, what we call a general business license, a GBL license, that every person that's engaged in a business have to purchase a general business license. So that's roughly a simple $200 application fee to secure that license. So that's one fee. If you're engaged in a business, whatever it is, you need a general business license.
Would that apply to somebody who's, for example, making jewelry in their basement or doing a very small business and that sort of thing? I've always thought of it as a graduated business license,
Yeah,
but it's interesting
well, I
to
mean,
hear you call
I
it.
call it GBL, but it's a graduated business license. It does apply, I guess the short answer is yes, it does apply. However, there's a certain small business type of licenses that we've provided for people who have home occupations. And so they are required to pay a lesser fee if you just got, a home that you're operating out of your home, selling jewelry or something like that. You may be able to apply for a lesser license, which is, I think, $25 fee if you're doing something on a smaller scale out of your home. That would be different. So in addition to the general business license, which is basically the $200 license, there's a home occupancy license that a person can get if they're just doing business out their home.
And so the budget that that the license collector's office, the budget for that office, since the Board of Aldermen doesn't approve that as a department of the city government, who approves the budget for the license collector's office?
Well, the license collector approves the budget herself in consultation with her staff.
Is there any public hearings or public involvement in that process?
No, there's no public hearing regarding the budget. As you know, and has cited already, that these county offices are governmental entities in and of themselves. They are conducted by the appointing authority who supervises the functions of the office, and per statute, state statute, there's no reporting requirement to anyone other than the office holder themselves. It works better when there's communication between the county offices and the city offices for purposes of the contribution that we make to the city budget. So there's a need for communication and understanding of what the revenue is.
Yeah, I would agree. I think, anytime we're dealing with tax dollars, I think a level of transparency and public engagement is really important, especially when we're taxing people for doing business in the city of St. Louis. I know it can be a very large burden, especially for very small business owners, to have to interface and pay those license fees. I'll turn it over to the committee for questions in order of seniority. Alderman Oldenburg.
Thanks for being here today.
You're welcome.
I don't have any specific questions just yet, but I do look for full cooperation from this county office as well as the others associated with the Red Tape Committee that the Board of Aldermen has stood up. And probably later this summer will be hearings to work together in cooperation on how do we ease the burden of small businesses, small business owners of various asset types as they try to move forward in the city. How can we transact with them cheaper and quicker? And we see your office as an integral role in helping facilitate that. So I do look forward to those discussions around the Red Tape Committee. Thank you.
Sure, on behalf of my boss, who, of course, was on vacation when this meeting was scheduled, so she did not get back. We operate pursuant to ordinance and state statute.
Yep.
So whatever the ordinances require us to do, that's what we do.
Yeah, right, and I think that's where we can look at, can ordinances be changed, state laws can be changed, lots of things can sort of happen to broker a cheaper and easier transaction with taxpayers and with businesses as they operate and grow wealth in the city. I think that's our goal, so I appreciate it.
Thank you. I would just, if I can comment, I think it's important and imperative that as the board consider legislation that impacts the various offices, that the office holder at least be kind of at the table to
Oh,
be
absolutely.
involved in those discussions. It's been a lot more of that here lately than it has been in the past, and so I just encourage the board to continue with the recent stream of communication and encouraging, involving the office holder.
Alderwoman Saunier.
I don't have any questions at this time. I would just say similar to what Alderman Oldenburg said about, obviously as the Board of Aldermen, we have the ability to pass ordinances and legislation, and some of the things that I've heard a lot in community and from businesses is just that there's some things in City Hall that perhaps could be updated so that it's less challenging for businesses, particularly small businesses, to open. But so far, you all's office have been very, accommodating. And also thank you, the license collector, Ms. Thompson. She actually came to our orientation. She held a breakfast for us and answered a lot of questions about just kind of, I think, what's in this brochure that you gave us about what the office does. And I know she's been in service for a long time, so I have no reason to think we wouldn't be able to be in communication about what we can do to help, the businesses and the economy of our city.
Thank you.
Alderman Aldridge.
No questions.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Goodman, for being here today. I think it would be really helpful. One thing I know we've struggled with over the years, the Board of Aldermen authorizes all of the fees and licenses that you collect through ordinance. And I know you kind of alluded to the fact that we've reconsidered those over the years, or considered making changes to the graduated business licenses to make it easier for small businesses to get started and less burdensome for the extremely small businesses in our community. It would be really helpful if you could share data with us about those licenses that you collect, the number in each kind of category. I know that's something we've struggled to have in the past, and just kind of understanding how we collect those fees would be very helpful. I'm sure Ryan can follow up with kind of a detailed set of questions that we've kind of positioned here, Mr. Goodman, that you can follow up with us on.
Yes, we can certainly get you that information.
That would be so helpful. The last question I have is not necessarily related to the budget, but related to kind of the city kind of moving from the A-frame onto a more modern platform. It's my understanding that maybe is the license collector's office still functioning on the A-frame?
Yes, my understanding that we may be the last sole survivor.
It was my understanding as well.
On the A-frame, and we are actually engaging in the various in the two entities, I believe it's CityWorks and one of the other groups that we're looking at. The challenge for us is that other persons are already on various systems, like DevNet. I think the collector revenue is already dealing with DevNet, and some other cities' agencies is dealing with CityWorks, and so now we want to be on a system that allows us to communicate with all the city parts. And so, because this, of course, is our busy season, which ended yesterday, we were kind of in a holding pattern as far as talking with the various vendors. But CityWorks has been in our office the last month, going over our staff, of our operations and how they work, and to try to come back with a package that they will present to us. We're trying to nail down the costs. Because right now, we pay a small portion of the budget, of the city's budget, toward IT. And so we pay a certain percentage of it, which is nowhere near what it would cost us to run the office. So we will be struggling with trying to figure out how to pay for a new system that would allow us to communicate with all the various cities' departments. Okay. And I think that's one of the things, Alderman is it Saunier?
Saunier.
That's one of the things that kind of hampers us as far as being able to be a good service to the public, because they can come to our office, but they still have to go to 3 other offices in order to do what they need to do. If the right technology is in place, then we can alleviate, a lot of burden. And so we're trying to figure out cost first, what we can afford, and And I know that I guess it's the assessor's office had a new system put in place, and they actually had some kind of bond issue passed in order to help them pay for it. So you may be hearing from us again, try to figure out if there's some way that the license collector can get some funding in order to support the type of technology that we need to put in place. Because as you know, we keep a certain portion of the funds that's collected from the taxes that are collected. It's like a small percentage of each license tax. In the municipal, we keep 4% of the money that's collected. Manufacturing, keep 3.9%. Hotel, motel, we keep 3%. So it's really a small portion of what's actually collected. And so when we talk about our budget and having the money to do that kind of thing, we're really pretty much strapped because we only get what we bring in.
Well, if you could help us, I think, in follow-up, kind of what you need from that. I understand that maintaining the A-frame for one county office to remain on it is very expensive for the city. So I know it's costing us to continue the license collector functioning in that way. So I think from a cost-benefit perspective, it would certainly make the most sense to bring you in line with every other aspect of city government, and we want to help make sure that you have the tools to do that. So we'll follow up in that set of questions with what the sort of holdup is, what the cost would be, and then certainly kind of taking a look at what the cost to the city of not doing that would be, is not only a financial burden on the city, but certainly a hindrance to moving us into the 21st century.
Absolutely.
So, okay, thank you so much. I think from that perspective, hearing no more questions from the committee, we'll thank you for coming before us, recognizing that that we don't have authority over your budget. It's a very unusual set of circumstances to have unilateral budgetary authority rest with one person, but that is the case here, and we really appreciate you being flexible as we were kind of shifting around at the beginning of our hearing time.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. And with that, seeing no other items on our agenda, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Okay. Hearing no objections, we're
Aye.
adjourned.